2. We're live. Everybody, good people. It's welcome to the Fading Embers podcast. I'm Julian Ben. Thank you for joining me and my fellow Empty Wonderland collective people. We are doing a very extra special episode of the podcast because ordinarily we already have the whole season scripted out. Episodes are all filmed and everything like that. We've just been releasing them. But we saw Black Panther. And it was so good that we decided that we needed to have a posse cut. We need to have a whole bunch of people on the party line, and we need to sit down and talk about this flipping film. We're going to have a panel to talk about this. So, basic housekeeping, Empty Wonderland Collective, just a bunch of people, there's friends. Most of us are Christian in the group, and you know what? We just like to talk about stuff that we like to talk about. Black Panther is going to be one of those things. If you're not a Marvel fan, if you don't want to hear this, if you don't care about the culture, then you can skip and go to another episode. But this is extra special. You want to be a part of it. Follow us on Twitter at Empty Wonderland. We're Empty Wonderland Collective on Facebook. We're also Empty Wonderland Collective on Instagram and on Tumblr. Check us out down there in the description below. You will see links to our social media stuff. Follow us, like us, rate us, leave commentary. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button, hit subscribe, and hit the little bell so that you can be notified when new episodes come out every Wednesday in Q1 of 2018. Now, I'm going to start off with my panel. I don't know how you guys are arranged to each other here on the left, but we'll do in order of people who came in the call. So we'll start with Tim. Tim, if you could tell us who you are, where you're from.
My name's Tim, hailing out of Tacoma, Washington, the great Northwest. I'm a graphic designer who's a Christian. And just love Marvel's MCU and love the Black Panther and want to just extra curious to see what everybody else thinks.
Somebody else jump in and introduce.
I'm Joel Ben. I'm calling from Columbia, Elgin, South Carolina. Registered nurse, always big sci-fi comic book fan. May or may not have on pants past the camera line here. And looking forward to bouncing back some ideas on how the movie was.
If you could ever get it together, bro.
Yeah. Oh, man. My name is Michael. I'm clearly having technical difficulties getting in on the Google Hangout.
I hear you, brother.
But saw Black Panther, thought it was amazing. Was invited to talk about it, so let's go. I'm ready.
Word. So we're just gonna jump straight into it. People watching this, because this is live, so there might be people who might be tuning in and watching it. I don't know, 0 viewers, no one cares. Anyway, hopefully share the stuff on social media while we're talking so that we can, if people are interested, they can see it. So on your Facebooks, on your Twitters, share the feed if you so choose. But folks, there will be spoilers, like mad spoilers, like hella spoilers. So if you're sensitive about that, spoilers? Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of spoilers. So if you're sensitive about that kind of stuff, you should probably stop watching right about now. But the movie's also been out for a month now, so shame on you if you're just now coming into this and you have no idea what's going on. So with that said, we're gonna just jump straight into the plot. Tim, why don't you tell us off with your initial thoughts on the plot. How did you feel about the plot for this movie?
Well, what Ryan Coogler did is, he took a story that's in the MCU and made it a standalone. So it's like part James Bond, part, something Shakespearean with Afrofuturism. With a lot of sci-fi and Martin Freeman thrown in there. So it was a nice ride. It was a roller coaster. So I don't know how you go beyond that. And but just the way he ended the story as well, it's like you want to know how the story continues, but there's no cliffhanger. I think it was really well done storytelling, in my opinion. What y'all think?
I thought it was a good movie, probably made at the right time. I don't know if it would have worked earlier, but it was a good time for that kind of movie to be successful. So it had really great timing. Um, I thought that it was interesting how he did the story in terms of some of the characters because he kind of didn't go by the usual formula for some of the storylines for Black Panther, but I thought it was really well written, good cast, good soundtrack, and
Two
as
soundtracks.
usual,
Two soundtracks.
yeah, it's a very very good set of soundtracks, and the whole storyline that the MCU is weaving together has been great. I don't know who their writing team is, but man,
They do. They got
From Iron Man to here, it's been really great how they put it all together.
Squad.
And you can't cheap out character development and plot development. You can't be cheap on that. DC.
Nope.
Mike, what did you think on the plot, man? Just overall plot thoughts.
I thought it was a great introduction to a country to a place that had only been referred to a couple of times in Easter eggs throughout the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. I was waiting for it ever since they mentioned Captain America's shield. I was like, bruh, you can't give me Cap's shield and not tell me where Cap got the shield from, bruh. Like, come on, man. So, and then I loved how they were unabashedly Wakandan in nature. Like, they didn't apologize for it. They didn't tiptoe around the fact that they were Wakandan, and it was almost like if you weren't Wakandan, you just weren't. So I just loved that. I think somebody had already said it was a timely movie. I thought that they were just trying to make a really good movie. I don't think that they anticipated the I want to say it a movement, but the love throng that they got as a response.
The hype around it.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the times where they were like, should we believe the hype? Yes, believe all of the hype. Believe it all.
Yeah. Oh shoot. Trevor, who wanted to be with us tonight but couldn't due to some family circumstances and stuff like that, he told me that, and he's kind of harsh on movies, and then he's been a comic book geek since he was a kid. That's how he cut his teeth on storytelling, was through comic books. And he told me that and so he's real, like I said, he's real critical on stuff like that. He said this movie broke all of his sort of expectations. It was personally timely for him, especially with what he's got going on in his life right now. And he was like, if they had left the movie at its original cut, which was something like 4 hours, he would have sat through and watched the whole 4 hours. Like,
yeah,
like
I need that special cut.
Yeah,
I need that director's cut.
Because I mean, it was super dope. Like for me, I really liked the like Disney's not stupid, and this will probably be somewhat a controversial comment, but for all the racism that Disney has perpetuated and participated in over the last 100 years, they clearly aren't stupid. And they clearly are working hard to do what we like to call inclusion in this nice, the modern era that we're living in right now. So getting Ryan Coogler was not only strategic, but it was also wise, because Coogler, he knows how to see people, how to look at people and sort of observe what people are like. And I mean, if you look at any of his work, like Fruitvale, for example, stuff like that, you look at some of his previous work, that he throws in little details, and he tries to put people who look like real people, not like polished Hollywood types, into things. So to have a movie that was going to be so Afrocentric, that was going to be telling the story of Africa even though it's a fictitious African country, but telling the story of the African continent through King T'Challa, and then also telling the story of like what it's like to be a child of the African diaspora in the West Indies through Killmonger, and then what happens when there's a heated but sort of a confrontational exchange between people coming from that side, and then even just working with TDE and Kendrick to help put together both the score and the soundtrack together. You basically were telling both stories. You were telling an African story, but you were telling an African American story at the same time. So, and you weren't going to get anything less than that with Ryan Coogler at the helm. You give Ryan Coogler all the money, and he's going to tell the story of Black people. So, telling the story of Black people and it being Marvel, for me, for a Black guy from the South, that's like extra special treat right there. Like, so you gave me everything I love. You gave me the story of my people, and you gave me a good Marvel movie. So that's how I felt about it.
And we better get a sequel.
Well, the sequel's been confirmed.
If they can give Thor Ragnarok 3 movies, then I'm just.
We need a trilogy. We need a trilogy.
Give me everything, please.
I need Felicia Rashad and a few other people to be in the sequel to this. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I'm like, whoever Chadwick Boseman's agent is killing it. Jesus.
He's making South Carolina look good right now. Him and what's his face? Luke Cage, the dude who plays Luke Cage.
Oh, Mike Coulter.
Yeah, him and Mike Coulter are making South Carolina look dope right now. They're doing a good look for the South right now. Yeah, like I thought it was great. The Killmonger character, I listened to other reviews before we got into this, and before we get into like favorite characters and stuff like this, I wanted to bounce this thing off you guys and see how you guys felt about it. I want to hear from all of you on it. So they said that I don't know if it's appropriate to shout them out. I'll just say there's an all female podcast. It's Black women. I listen to them on a regular basis, and they gave some really candid, which I appreciated, some really interesting thoughts on the Black Panther movie. I didn't agree with everything they had to say, but at the same time, I really appreciated what they had to say. And some of the things that really stuck out for me was they really appreciated the length that Coogler went to sort of really show the human side of all the characters that were in there, and to put in T'Chaka's, the lazy eye, or the glass eye, or whatever it is, to not get somebody who was better looking or to CG the eye to look normal, but to have somebody even with flaws as part of it, showing human beings, not having everybody look all polished. They also said that they really liked how we had so many badass women in this thing, like tough superhero strong Black women that didn't really need men, weren't none of that kind of stuff like that. So they really liked the treatment of women and the dignity that was given in there, even in women being able to disagree, like Nakia and Okoye really having sharp disagreements about how they serve Wakanda, with Okoye being loyal to the throne more so than she is loyal to the king, and Nakia being the opposite of that. And then the third thing that they said that was really piercing to me really had to do with Killmonger. I went to go see the movie with Michael, and I remember one of the things that Michael said was that he related to Killmonger more than he thought. And these ladies were saying that they were surprised as to how many people really found themselves kind of relating to Killmonger in the way that they did, especially considering Killmonger's glaring character flaws. Like in their words, he hates Black women, because if you think about it, he shot his ride or die. Like he shot through her to kill a white dude, and then to kill Claw, and then one of the aunties that was helping him up, after he got out of his dream sequence.
Like, spoiler alert.
Yeah, I told these people, there's gonna be spoilers. So when he got out of his prophetic dream, when they were doing the process for him to become the next king of Wakanda, he choked the auntie out when she was like, no, don't burn the magical flower juice that's gonna, that can make another Black Panther. And he was like, burn all that. And so him choking her up, like they were like, look, just how could you align yourself? Like, why feel like you relate so much to a guy who clearly hates Black women and that, and does these really traumatic, violent kind of things? But then they also wanted to give Killmonger credit where it was due, saying that even though Killmonger was wrong about so many different things, when Killmonger was right, he was piercingly, like prophetically right. Like his speech to T'Challa about, there's 2 billion other people on the planet that look just like you and they're suffering, but then you sitting up here looking all comfy. So I wanted to just, feed you guys some of those thoughts, and then one after another, whoever wants to jump in, like, what do you think of some of those thoughts about those characters and about the plot?
I'll go first. I think that with Killmonger, one of the things that I liked, like I said, I was drawn to him more than I thought I would, because the way movies go, like you're introduced to the hero, and then you're supposed to be diametrically opposed to the villain. And Marvel really hasn't had a really good track record of villains. And so, like, this was the first time where I was like, you, sir, are the villain, but why am I agreeing with your stances on things? It was the first time where I had ever felt that, because usually the guys are like, you're like, for example, if we were looking for like Dark Knight Rises, like Bane, you're like, oh, you're anarchy and we can't have that, and like Batman is the hero we deserve, not the one we need, like but then you're like, man, Batman versus Bane, like I'll choose Batman. Now I'm like, T'Challa versus Killmonger, like there are points where I was like, Killmonger. And then there were points where I was like, all right, T'Challa, like, don't let this dude punk you. Like, but like clearly I think with that, I listened to that podcast too. Clearly with that podcast, I think they were just trying to they're pointing out those flaws. I love the candidness of them pointing that out. And just I think it just shows that even if you wanted to do something quote unquote for the people, like you have blind spots too, right? You know what I'm saying? So clearly Killmonger's heart was trying to do something for the people, but it was really coming from a place of revenge and belonging and fear. So in that passion for, I want the throne, I'm here for the throne, like I'm gonna kill you too, like you really wanted to belong somewhere. And sometimes I think that just points out, like, you can be gunning for a quote unquote noble cause and still have blind spots in that.
Fair enough.
All right.
I think the testament to a great villain is one you can really find a lot of common ground with. Like with Killmonger. Like my wife and I went to go see it. God, my wife hated Killmonger. Just his personality. But I feel like I could relate more to Killmonger's story than I could with like T'Challa. Not that I've had some super hard, terrible life, but I understand his perspective, though. I can relate more to that, more to his story. But like you said, his motivation probably seemed more driven by like anger and revenge and stuff like that. So there was a better, he had a good perspective, but there was a better way to do what he was doing. And you can tell it wasn't really about spreading the love and spreading the wealth. It was more about revenge and bitterness. And that's how it came out.
No, I think both you guys hit the nail on the head. When you think about Killmonger is a boy out of the hood that grew up without a father, making his own way. And, with his military experience in it, that's the only way he knows how. Even though, he could have had better execution for some of his ideals, I don't think he had a category in his mind for how to do that. Especially when he was trained, like you said, by the same people that he's trying to overthrow. As T'Challa pointed out, you're trying to, you're becoming just like them. I mean, that's all he knows. And his heart, I think, in some ways, is in the right place. He wants his people all over the world to stop suffering, to prosper, to get out of the shadows and out of the gutter. But this is the only way he knows how to achieve this dream.
Mhm.
I think it's just desperation.
You gonna say hi? Okay. Hey, go find mommy. Can you go find mommy? Mommy's not there.
All right. What was the next question?
The next segment I was going to talk about top characters. Can you guys give me your top 2 characters?
Suri and M'Baku.
Reason. And give a reason.
I don't know. I just like Suri's wit and know-how. And, at the same time, she's extremely caring. And M'Baku is just like I don't know. I liked it, dude.
I liked it. One thing that I thought was weird, or I thought was interesting, like I mentioned earlier, how didn't go the usual route with like the classic Black Panther storylines is like, M'Baku's usually a villain. He's a Black Panther supervillain, M'Baku the Man-Ape.
You see, that's what I thought that was gonna happen when they brought him
from the first trailer. That's how they kind of like played it. Like, oh, okay, the M'Baku the Man-Ape's in this, and it's gonna be tearing stuff up. And it looks like from the first Infinity War trailer, it looks like he's gonna be in that too.
Yeah.
All these Wakandans are fighting and stuff like that. But I agree with you. He was one of my favorite characters in this for sure. And I also did like I like Shuri too. I probably had the two same favorite characters. She had like all the tech stuff in her little lab and all that. It was awesome.
She was also like super snarky, man. Like that. I feel like almost everybody who reviewed it, they really like that. Don't sneak up on me, colonizer thing. Like
my wife loves the colonizer. It's like, don't be calling people colonizer.
Bro, I was dying. I was dying in the theater over that.
I'm waiting. Like, I think so M'Baku had to go down as one of my favorite. If you haven't seen everybody doing his impressions on the internet, what are you doing? They got like 6-year-olds walking into the bathroom talking about it's challenge day. Like bro, what are you doing? Like so I would say definitely I'll say M'Baku is one of my favorites, and then I would say T'Challa would be my second favorite, because he's like trying to figure out what kind of king he wants to be. I think the biggest one of the weighty quotes was like in the trailer, like when the teaser trailer came out, with the crazy beat. He was like, "You're a good man, but it's hard for a good man to be king." And I was like, "Oh man, you might be struggling and trying to make this work." And he did, and like in order to be the kind of king he wanted, he had to like reject what had been done before or what had been perceived as law. So he was like, I want to do this my way. And that's what I mean. That was the advice that his father gave him. Like, you got to decide if you're gonna be a good man or you're gonna be a king. And I was like, all right, challenge accepted.
And he did both.
Right.
According to how they wrote the story, I don't know that he would have been able to do both without the confrontation with Killmonger. Because Killmonger, not only did Killmonger make them vulnerable by breaking in, but also showed expose the dark history, like the dark stuff that T'Chaka did and everything like that, and really made T'Challa have to count the cost of what it actually means to be king, sitting up on top of all this wealth and resource, and what do you actually do with it? Like, if he didn't have to have that confrontation, he wouldn't have had to consider really letting the shield down and giving the resources out and stuff like that. So it obviously, they tried to write some closure to it. So this is how T'Challa became the kind of king he's supposed to become, as a result of this confrontation.
That really played into a lot of the nuances with like the concepts of fatherhood in the Black community, whereas you got Killmonger, grew up without his dad for most of his life. You got T'Challa, who's been able to live comfortably and stuff like that, but then he inherits the throne, but then has to come back. Like the scene with that second scene with the ancestors, where he talks to his dad's ghost again, and his dad had already told him, like, you're a good man, and it's hard for a good man to be king. But then he had to come back and tell him, all that's true, but you were wrong. What you did, you were wrong. Why'd you leave him there? Why'd you leave the boy there? And things could have been different.
Yeah.
So that was they hit a lot of stuff. It was really well written.
Yeah. So my favorite two, I'm really torn to pick two because I have so many favorites. So when I challenge you guys to that, I was challenging myself, in doing it. Shuri, without a doubt. Shuri, she was so witty. Like I've never really laughed at the memes where, like, what are those? But when Coogler made sure he threw that in there for Shuri's character to be like, what are them when talking about T'Challa's sandals and stuff like that. The only time I think I've ever laughed. Yeah, man. Like I think the only time I've ever laughed at that meme is when like Bash the Entertainer on Instagram, he has like a what are those segment on every episode where, like, showing ridiculous shoes people invent on the internet and stuff like that. So I've never really like laughed at that, like on a outside of Bash the Entertainer. And I was caught off guard when she was like, what are those?
I cringed a little bit.
Did you like? But the colonizer thing really,
and that was funny.
And like, so I'm torn in terms of like if I had to pick a second one, I'm torn between Killmonger and Nakia. I actually really liked Nakia a lot. I liked her character. I liked the balance that she brought to T'Challa, and the balance that the balance that she brought to his perspective, not being a sitting member of the Elder Council, because he's listening to everybody else. He's listening to Okoye. He's listening to the other elders, and she's sort of like his conscience, as it were, giving him like, look, there's more than one way to protect Wakanda, and we also have to protect the people who are on the outside as well. So like she really, I don't know that he would have been able to come up with some of the creative solutions that he came up with after defeating Killmonger had Nakia not been there, if that makes sense.
Also, with the way they wrote it, opened up for him to be a different kind of king, because like I spoke earlier about it not following the classic storylines. In the comic, a lot more people, know that Wakanda's this place that has all these resources, and you've had them for years trying to get into Wakanda. But here, they had no idea what Wakanda really looked like.
Mm.
And so now you kind of have like the classic storyline flowing in, because it's gonna be exposed and people are gonna know. And maybe for like a sequel, people are gonna like with Civil War, you got all these unchecked superpower people going around. You've got this civilization with all this technology. We need to get in there and take that stuff. What right do they have to keep all that? That might open it up for what happens in a sequel.
And there's also splinters now, because his lead general doesn't agree with he with his lack of discernment. Poor fella decided to side with Killmonger on the one hand, and so he's made an enemy in that one sense. And then he's got this strange relationship with M'Baku, who clearly they weren't friends, and so now he has just kind of a shaky, sometimey alliance with the Jabari as a result of that. So he's going to have enemies from without and from within now as a result of that. Let alone the intergalactic stuff they're about to get into in Infinity War.
I have to disagree with that. I think with M'Baku, I think they've become close allies. Like one of the last scenes, he's walking into the throne room, and M'Baku is there now as part of the council. I think one interesting plot point, just to point this out, like T'Challa starts out with just on a mission for revenge, just to get Claw, and then by the end of the movie, like they pointed out, that what's her name, Nakoya, her conscience role, I think she was vital in changing his mindset and like becoming this like whole other person by the end. Where at first he's gun ho, we got to protect Wakanda, we gotta get revenge for all these things, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, we gotta do something else here.
I appreciate that. That's actually that shifted my perspective a little bit. I was originally, for the next segment, going to do bottom 5 characters, but I'm going to chuck that because I think that it was so quality that it's not necessarily to talk about bottom characters. How about we take a moment and talk about the sort of the invisible friend that really undergirded the movie in 2 different directions, which that would be the 2 soundtracks that the film had. I assume everybody's had a chance to at least listen to a little bit of both. Kendrick Lamar's contribution, which was the official soundtrack, and then you had the score, which was done by Ludwig. Everybody's heard a little bit of it, at least.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm gonna lead off with a little thought, and then get everybody's sort of general thoughts about that thought, and then what they thought of the soundtracks. So the podcast that Michael and I were referring to, that we listened to, they expressed some disappointment, feeling that I don't think they heard the other soundtrack. I don't think they heard the official score because they were only talking about Kendrick's contributions. But they said that they were disappointed. They didn't feel like Kendrick's contribution was African enough, which was puzzling to me because like there's 4 South African artists and 1 Ethiopian artists that are featured on the album. They sampled from the South African Library of Sound. They sampled African folk music from hundreds of tribes to actually be a part of the Kendrick soundtrack. And then they also had people who are actually African, like first generation African children who are living in the UK. And, their parents came from Africa. So they're like the first generation children, in London, kind of thing like that. So they're still being raised in the home in an African lifestyle. They could still get slapped in the mouth. If you talk sideways, you're a grown person, you could still get hit, so they're being raised African just in England. So I don't know how much more African they could have made it, aside from the fact that Kendrick Lamar and his label TDE really had between him and SZA and other people really had deep claws in the sound of it. But I don't know how much more African they could have made it and it still be in the American market and have the kind of punch that it had. So there's that. And then the score itself was thoroughly African. Like, it had some modern sort of Western like orchestral score to it, but it was not in any way unsatisfying as a thing. So I don't know. I agree with them saying that it wasn't African considering the number of Africans that were in it. But, what do you guys think of that? Do you think it was African? And then what did you think about each of those soundtracks?
I'll start off. I think I agree with that comment. I think the issue with Kendrick's album was it's too Kendrick, and it's not necessarily African per se. I mean, we talk about Afrofuturism. Now, music evolves, so you can't just like sample tribal music and call it African, because those same tribal tunes have evolved into something that's different sounding with just with the tribal roots. I have like heard music in South Africa, and Kendrick is not what they're playing in the taxis down there, if you know what I mean. I mean, they have their own sound, which I thought was much better replicated by Ludwig in some of the scenes, especially what Shuri has playing in her lab. That to me sounded a lot more like it's back in the streets of Johannesburg type of situation with that. So those are just my thoughts. I really enjoyed the score, but I thought that Kendrick's album was just too Kendrick to be called fully African. I mean, it's an enjoyable work, but I see where they're coming from with those thoughts.
Gotcha. Even just to add another little little needle in there for the others jump in, even with, so many actually pretty popular in South Africa and Ethiopia, even with artists from the continent who are, are giants in their own rights in their own countries over there on the continent, even with them contributing, multiple verses and hooks and writing and stuff like that, and them being in the studio during the crafting process to have a say as to the sound. Even what do you think of that? Like, does that push the needle? If South Africa and Ethiopia approve, if the giants of those places approve, like, where does that push the needle in terms of like the Africanness of it?
Well, I think you're going back to like what does an artist represent? I mean, he was the artist art in the studio with Kendrick, so there's that collaboration and just the mixing of different sounds. I don't think it doesn't necessarily make it African.
It might have been a good opportunity to introduce some of these more African artists from the continent in the soundtrack.
Which is surprisingly.
I think you have a majority American artists on the soundtrack. On that soundtrack.
It was on that soundtrack. It was the majority were Western people, but the 5 or 6 people who were from the continent of Africa, and then the other African dispersed individuals who were like in the UK and stuff like that, they, with their contribution, all of those artists from those other places that weren't from the States, they actually, this is their first time charting internationally. So then with the album being #1 for like 3 weeks, it really allowed them to be able to get a sort of worldwide recognition, where they might have done very well on the continent of Africa or done well in their individual countries, like very, very well. Now they're becoming internationally known as a result of the collaboration with Kendrick. So I will say that's the positive in that, is that now they weren't known before globally, and now they are.
And then just the same, if you were going to do a soundtrack that wasn't just the orchestral one, you're going to need somebody who's a draw. And Kendrick Lamar obviously is a draw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be interesting to hear, like, I'll take all those artists on their own right and see what kind of music they're producing, for the African people, for their audience, and then compare it, see how it sounds next to the Kendrick album.
Yeah, I've sampled. I spent the last week listening to some of their stuff, and they're good. But it's clear that like, if you're just talking from a sonic and a sonic perspective and a level of polishedness, I think Kendrick is still I think he's more polished than them, but I think that they're younger. A lot of them are younger artists, diamonds in the rough kind of thing like that, but they're all accomplished in their own rights. I can see why they're as successful as they are in their respective countries. Any other thoughts, like the contrasting? Mike, you got anything? Score versus the Kendrick's contribution? Any thoughts on, that podcast commentary?
So my first introduction to Kendrick, I didn't really hop on the bandwagon when he showed up. So my first introduction to him was is
it Good Kid, or is it To Pimp a Butterfly?
Yeah, To Pimp a Butterfly. So hearing him on this, I was like, okay, like I'm acquainted. I'll say I'm acquainted with Kendrick, but I'm not like, those people that are like diehard fans. They know every single thing that he's ever written and every single lyric on I'm not that dude, but I can respect the fact that he's an artist. I think I was drawn more to the other album though, just because I think it, like, I think my favorite soundbite or sample sound is the sound that's designated for the Dora Milaje. Mm-hmm. Like it's that chorus of women, mm-hmm. with that piercing, like that piercing note. I don't know, like no matter where I am, when I hear that, I'm like, oh, somebody's about to get their butt kicked in this theatrical trailer. I'm like, somebody just caught like a staff to the face. So I think I would side more with the soundtrack score. I think one of my biggest gripes is like, man, there are songs that I heard in the trailer, and there are songs that I heard in the movie, but I don't remember hearing it on the album. So I'm like going through the album, I'm like, oh, is this it? Is this it? But I don't ever remember hearing it on the soundtrack.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah. The track that they used for the initial trailer, that was actually
Run the Jewels.
yeah, it was Run the Jewels from Run the Jewels 2. And so yeah, I think the name of the song was Spotlight. And so yeah, that's Killer Mike, and I can't remember the other dude's name. So but yeah, so I was like, okay, yeah, but that was a super dope track that track is dope, but it's less dope when it's not on Black Panther. Like the trailer made that song much doper than it was by itself. It really was. I did like the score a lot. I do spend more time listening to the score. There's only like 2 songs from the soundtrack that I listen to. Like I like what is it? Big Shot, which is like the second to last track, and then I like Big Shot.
Burn It All is my favorite track on there.
Oh, it's from the score. You like Burn It All on the score? Yeah. Anything on the score, anything that had the Killmonger motif was probably my favorite. If I'm honest, like I really love that Killmonger sort of theme that they injected all throughout the orchestral score.
Well, and then it was a great shot. He tells him to burn all the flowers, and then there is just kind of this rotating shot as he's walking through the doors into the ground. That was a great shot.
It was
the first time I heard that, I was like, when they introduced him, like when he did the heist and got away and that beat dropped, I was like, no, it's amazing.
This is a problem. Yeah, like just not to steal Trevor's shine since he's not here, but Trevor thought that Killmonger's motif was excellent. He said because one, it has real trap elements in it. You know what I'm saying? Like the trap music style elements too. He said it's disruptive, it's selfish, it's arrogant, and it doesn't sound like anything else that's on the score. That that's really kind of uplifting and mystical and African and all that other stuff. Then all of a sudden you just have like this really gritty, just like almost record scratchy kind of like trap music that just kind of jumps in. It's like, yeah, all right, yeah, we're important and we have a history and a legacy. And then here comes this arrogant young swagger dude that just comes in and just kind of wrecks the whole thing. So I like.
Not a lot. I play that when I walk into work.
Super dope. Does anybody have a favorite scene or a moment or something like that happened in the film?
For me, I would have to be like the first scene after the credits. And I think that kind of summarizes for me like the whole point of the movie. I mean, and that's basically the Christian worldview towards riches in the first place. It's like you got to stop hoarding and share the wealth. You gotta bring people in. God gave this to you so you could bless others, and that made the whole movie for me. I love the movie, but I was like, yes, this is it. This is the point right here. So yeah, that was, I think, it's kind of lame in its execution, but I thought it was just like the whole theme behind it made the movie for me.
Awesome. Joel, favorite moment? Or when you said your favorite moment was the camera shift, or did you have a different?
No. I'm kind of torn between moments. I'm trying to find the line. Here. The first one where he's on like the ancestral plane is I really love. I love both of them, and I'm torn between that and the scene near the end where Killmonger and T'Challa are on the cliff, and because Killmonger had like a really great line. Here we go. He's sitting there on his knees and he's saying he told T'Challa to bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships because they knew death was better than bondage. That was It's pretty dope.
Mm.
So I'm kind of torn between those two scenes there.
Gotcha. Mike, favorite scene?
So I think. So I like. I think my favorite scene would have been. I think I like the scene where they were about to get Claw in the casino. Because even though they were spread out, it wasn't like, you always have that scene where somebody goes in a group and then somebody needs somebody to cover them. That didn't really happen in that casino scene. So like everybody was literally holding their own in the scene, and it was really just shine time for Nakia and Okoye, really. And then the chase after that was even like, it was just shine time for like Wakandan women. So like the fact that Shuri is like back home in Wakanda, but she's racing around in this Lexus coupe, like totally involved. She's like the Wakandan version of Riri Williams, if you will. Like, and then I think so. Like, just I think I love the fact that they use the South African language or dialect. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly.
It's you mean Xhosa?
Yeah. Xhosa. Yeah, I can't do Xhosa. I can't do that. It's just I just love that. Like, I love that and I love that that's how they got spotted. It wasn't the fact that there was this beautiful lady in this red dress with this wig on her head. It was the fact that she started speaking, that she was speaking Xhosa with everybody else, and that's what, like, blew their cover, if you will. So yeah, I thought that would have been like the casino and the car chase scene. Yeah, because they were basically doing everything that Black Panther was doing, just without the suit. You feel me?
I do. Like, I'm torn between two scenes as well. Like the throne room scene where they're officially inaugurating Killmonger, and how like Joel was describing earlier, how like the camera flips the whole time. Like, I don't know what Coogler was on that morning, but that was just a stroke of like cinematic genius to me. Like
whatever he did to get that, like whatever his morning routine was, that just needs to be his morning routine from now on.
Like, I just want to see the rig that he
every day.
Yeah, I want to see the rig that he used to, like it was just so good. It was so crystal clear. Like it you can tell they didn't switch cameras for that, because it was a different camera for certain scenes that I could tell, like the bank heist scene. No, when they broke Claw out of detention, and Killmonger put the mask on, you could tell that there was a slightly different camera for that scene than with others, just based on like the quality of the shot. But I don't know what his rig was, but that was just an incredible cinematic shot to me. It blew my mind. And so between that and then the what's the other moment that just was ridiculous? Oh, Killmonger's astral plane sequence, where how instead of ending up on the plains of Africa, he's back in Oakland, and he's talking with his daddy Sterling, flipping Sterling, crying out of one eye.
Shout out Sterling K. Brown.
Man, I was so happy.
No tears for your father?
Yeah, bro, like that, the no tears, the no tears for, no tears for me, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then, then trying to act like everybody dies, and then like wiping tears and stuff like that. Like, yeah, like, so Killmonger's dream, like, got me, like, on the real. Like, I was starting to get a little like,
like I said, like for Killmonger, his person was like, God, I hated Killmonger. I hated his personality, but I related to his story more than I related to T'Challa's. And it was kind of like, oh, it's like, it's like, you're right. You're still a dick, but you're right. That's fine. Yeah, you're right.
All right, starting with Michael. On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you grade this?
Man, I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and give it a 10, and I'll tell you why. Like my emotional expectations for the movie were far exceeded. Far exceeded. Like I think just on a personal level, like people were like, well, you had other Black superhero movies before. I was like, but not like this on this level. And so like my girls, I have 2 girls and a boy that's about to turn 1 on Wednesday. Now they don't have to choose. They can choose who they want to be if we did like Halloween or whatever, and it doesn't have to be like the chocolate form of a Disney princess. You can be Shuri, you can be Nakia, you could be Okoye. Like little homie can dress up as T'Challa or M'Baku. Like I will dress him up as M'Baku if he want. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you have choices now. You have options now. Where before you would just be like, well, I kind of like this guy, but nobody really knows him. Like if you don't know who they are by now, like seriously, you've been living under a rock. You need hobbies. Like go watch Black Panther. There was hype to be believed in, and like people have been like, oh, don't believe the hype on certain things, but like, you can believe the hype on Black Panther. I'm a fan. Definitely copping it on Blu-ray when it comes. Definitely copping the joint on Blu-ray when it comes out.
Just a little tip there. Right now, the two companies that got like the exclusive special edition versions of Black Panther are Target and Best Buy, and they release the covers and what all the content's supposed to be. Don't get the Target one. Get the Best Buy one. The Best Buy one is super dope. The Target one, I don't know how they managed to miss the mark on this, but I mean, it looks like something out of Kmart. Like I don't even understand what's going on with Target, because like the Star Wars Last Jedi package they got was off the chain, but they totally screwed up the Black Panther one. So just mark my words, get the Best Buy one. It's a steel book. Woo! It's super super sweet.
It's not steel. It's vibranium.
It's vibranium. All right, who's next to give a grade?
Go for it.
I gave it 9. I'm gonna tell you why. I'm getting to it. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Probably my one really big gripe with Black Panther is when they're working with a sequel, where to go from there, because it's like, oh my God, you guys killed 2 of your major villains from the Black Panther universe, and then he's friends with the other one. So they made it a little challenging for a sequel right there.
There's others.
Because I would have loved to see more Claw. I love Claw. I would love to see more Claw. I feel like the way they wrote Killmonger in there, that reached this kind of logical conclusion for the film. But it's like, oh my God, y'all, Claw's done already? He just got here. You have a little scene in Age of Ultron, but it's like he just got here. He's gone. All right, well, dang. Baku the Man ain't your friend now, so I don't know. So it'd be interesting to see where they write to get it to go to a sequel. But that it gets a 9 out of 10 for me for that.
Tim, what you got, man?
I'm there with Joel. I think a 9 out of 10 for me. One of the main reasons being is that it tried hard to be 2 movies. I mean, it pulled off the James Bond part of it pretty well. But then it kind of, I think, took away a little bit from like T'Challa's character development and being king.
They did.
So I think it just it was a nice distraction, but and it showed off some of his Black Panther skills. I think it didn't fit as well as they thought they tried to make it. And then I think they did kill Claw. I mean, I love the character. He was a crazy dude, and Michael Serkis played him really well. And but you're right. Like, they killed off Killmonger, they killed off Claw, right? In the same movie. So it's like, where do you take it from there? I mean, they got the Hunter, and I'm sure they can invent some more characters after that. But
those are like the big Black Panther villains, though. Killmonger, Claw, and M'Baku.
Yeah.
You haven't seen Infinity Wars. There could be something like just call the nerds speculating right now, but like you could have something like tear them apart. Like they weren't really good friends. It was just like, yo, somebody bought your dying body here. I just put you on ice. Like
yeah.
So like it's not, I don't feel like it's too teared. Like it's not one of those relationships like Cap and Bucky. Like you're not gonna Cap and Bucky for nothing. It's not.
I like the Bucky Easter egg there at the end there. Like they just had to throw in the Bucky Easter egg at the end.
Does my boy get a vibranium arm now?
Well, this is Shuri we're talking about. It's not out of the question.
It's glowing green in some of the shots. I mean, some of the photos, some of the press photos. You never know.
So my overall grade for it, I gave it about a 8.75 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I fluctuate between 8.75 and 9. I think I agree with Tim and Joel that the South Korea, the Seoul bit with the James Bondy secret mission to go get Claw. Honestly, to me, the best parts of that were Shuri remotely driving the car and the wisecrack that Claw made about having when Martin Freeman's character was like, hey, are you releasing a mixtape because he heard the loud music? And he's like, oh yeah. He said, actually, I am. Hey, yo, give him the SoundCloud link. So it was all this dude actually made a mixtape.
Gollum and Bilbo together again.
Hey, yeah. And then he made it rain, though. He made it rain.
He did. So I would say, so I didn't think that scene, that whole sequence, the whole James Bond thing did detract from it. Even though I did think it was necessary for them to build out the characters the way that they did. I felt like the movie was really fast and then it got slow, and then it got really fast and then it got slow. And then the kind of like you guys said, killing off some of the main Black Panther, villain staples there. And even though I think that Killmonger did reach a logical conclusion with that, I still wish that he had lived or been imprisoned or something to where there would be an opportunity to engage him either in the same, either differently or something else later on. But that's not how it panned out, which is fine. I feel like Coogler I don't think Coogler's ever been given this much money to do a film before. And
he wrote it to be standalone if it needed to be.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I felt like he wrote it in such a way to where, like, if they never do another one, he put his best a foot forward as he could.
He put his foot all up in that thing, man.
How often does a Black person get told by one of the largest film companies in the world, and definitely in the top 3 largest, just top 5 largest companies in the world? How often you get written a blank check to just do whatever you want? You know what I'm saying? Like how often does a Black man get that opportunity? So I'm sure he was like, oh, we're gonna do it all, y'all. We're gonna do everything we can to get. I'm gonna try to get all the genres.
I'm doing 2 soundtracks. I'm going to Africa right now.
I got the budget.
I'm gonna do it. Just trying to get it in. And then it's just look at that cast that he had and everything like that. So yeah, I can't blame the man for trying to do it all at one time. And hats off to Coogler for doing it. All right, so we are now.
Questions though.
Oh yes, what's the question?
I would be like, well, one. My question would be, that entire movie, nobody ate anything. I needed to see what kind of food looked like because I'm a fat boy. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, unless getting the strength of the Black Panther means that you don't have to eat, like somebody should have ate something. I wanted to see something.
Some jollof
Meat.
rice,
What's
something,
good? Like
something. You know what I'm saying? Something.
right.
You're getting some shawarma.
You got the bottle of slur or what? Like let's go. Like what did you eat?
Some fufu, something. You know what I'm saying? Something.
Yes.
You get that in the director's cut.
I hope so.
All right, good people. We're arriving at the part of our podcast, and I'm sure if anybody watched episode 5, where Tim and I went through the work songs album review, they'll notice we didn't do the shouting moment. But we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna redeem myself, and we're gonna have a free for all kind of shouting moment that we're gonna do in this particular episode. So, for those who did not grow up in Black church or have no idea what I'm talking about when I say shouting moment, if you're ever in Black church, and especially if it's like a Pentecostal, full gospel, Pentabaptist, whatever, when the pastor starts to sweating real good, he's trying to drive that final point home, and he's getting excited, and then they get on the organ and accent and everything the pastor's saying there. Like, he's like, "Can I get an amen, amen?" Like, I guess I'm by myself. That's your shouting over there. That's your moment there where you can give glory to God and testify that that something is good and true at that exact moment. So we're here as a part of the podcast, and we're at our shouting moment, where ordinarily we focus on a very specific thing as a shouting moment, but because this movie was so dope, I'm gonna let everybody do their own shouting moment. We're gonna start with Tim.
So shout out to Ryan Coogler. I think despite some of the flaws in the movies and the villain problem, I really like the fact that he tried to redeem and characters like Killmonger and M'Baku, because in the comic books he's just portrayed as a gorilla, and I could feel him wanting to redeem that character and bring him up to more like give him more human, make him more human, and make him more relatable. Because you can see where it goes, where things are gonna go societally and like in the social media if they made him like this crazy gorilla dude, right? So I appreciated that change. It's like they changed it from the comics, but I like what they did with the character. I thought they made him a lot more personable and interesting than just being a straight out crazy gorilla.
And the church said amen. Amen.
Amen.
Who else who wants to go next?
I'll give a shout out to the MCU. They are killing it, man. Story-wise, they're killing it. I love that they have bumped up the date for Infinity War, because now it's in the month of my birthday, so I'll be going to see that. Hopefully, I'll be free that day to go see it. I guess they own, or they have rights to Spider-Man, and they did the merger with 20th Century Fox, so they're getting the rights to X-Men. So I'm hoping, wishing that maybe we'll get some surprises in there. Because the Infinity War, in the comics, it is a huge ensemble. It's already a huge ensemble of characters, but it's a huge ensemble of Marvel characters fighting Thanos and his goons and all that stuff. There's a couple favorites. Say what?
I was going to say, it's what people from a hip hop culture would call a posse cut, because that's what it is. It's a posse cut.
There's a couple favorites I hope may make an appearance that aren't established in there yet. But I think Benedict Cumberbatch was talking about it in an interview a week or two ago that they probably are going to open it up to the multiverse. And that seems like the logical way to go. As actors are getting older, they're coming to the end of their contracts and stuff like that. You're going to get reboots, all that stuff. But to open that up to the multiverse seems like the logical next step. And that could open it up for some characters that we ain't seen before, maybe showing up and having some cameos.
Word. Mike, what's your shouting moment, man?
Man, like, just shout out to the movie as a whole. Like, I'm like trying to think, like, what did I like? There's so many themes that they tried to weave and points that they tried to make. Like, you could you could do a podcast just on each theme that was put up in the movie, and you could go in for like an hour on each theme, and like try and spread that out. So that team, that vision that Ryan Coogler had, like, yeah, like keep that going for the second and third one, bro. Like I'm in. Like, you know how the memes on the internet be like, "Shut up and take my money. Let's go." Like I'm already there. I'm already there. When the kids are big enough, and if they spread it out that long, they're going to see the movie. It's going down. Like, talk about my parenting later, but they're going to see the movie.
And hopefully it's opened up the opportunity for other projects that are similar to it. So
absolutely,
that may be what I love most about this. You know, if you forget all the hype around the movie, whether you liked it or not, the movie was successful, and maybe it'll open up the opportunity for similar projects to come out.
Word. My shout moment. I'm gonna shout out to Ryan Coogler, because and this is, everybody landed somewhere different on this particular thing, at least for the people whose podcasts and analysis of the movie I listen to. But it was just so good to go into a good movie with an all black cast, a mostly black cast, where the even like the white black stereotypes were flipped on their head. Like, think about, like, the white guy died early in the movie, and then the Agent Ross ended up being a sidekick. Like, all the stereotypes of what would typically a black trope got turned on its head, kind of thing like that. So, and then the movie wasn't like it wasn't hokey, it wasn't corny, it wasn't shucking and jiving nonsense. The type wasn't like blackface. It wasn't.
There was no drum line.
It wasn't no drum line. It wasn't Tyler Perry.
No magical Negro.
Yeah, no magical.
Thank you.
There was no magical Negroes in this one. It showed for the first time on the world stage. I can't think of a single film that I've ever watched where they showed a black man just as a man thoroughly, as capable of having great wealth without it coming from drugs, sex, or entertainment. Black women being strong and independent and not really needing a man, but also appreciating the men that they have in their lives, not as less than them, not as greater than them, but as equal partners. Showing, complex
if they stepped
relationships.
outside their work, they can get that work.
True indeed, because they can't get that work. So like, I felt like, and then also a movie that showed an actual conversation between the children of the diaspora and people from the continent, and then them having to sort of work out, differences and observing one another and seeing where they're the same and where they're different. I haven't yet to hear anybody tell me a single movie that either does all those things, or even does them well. And then doing it, where it's actually cinematically beautiful to look at, and the music, the whole thing is a total experience. So shout out to Ryan Coogler. I feel like he's telling, speaking on behalf of the black community, as if I have the right to do that. But, Coogler told our story. He told our story to the world and let the world look in on it. And like, dang it, man, I'm tired of slaves. I'm tired of slaves and black women being raped in films and stuff like that. Like, I'm tired of that, that nonsense. I'm tired of black people always being portrayed in the negative, or being portrayed as magical and hopeful in the face of all kinds of absurd,
I ain't had to hear about no drive-bys, nobody's baby mama.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and there wasn't nobody playing an organ, giving a sermon at the end. Like, well, baby, you just can't marry that man. Then throw a hot pot of grits on him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm glad they didn't do something like that. They didn't do a trope. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Ryan Coogler for actually telling our story and making us look like human beings and not like, the man ape, as Tim so wonderfully stated it there. He made us human, glass eye and all. Like he made us human. So yeah, that, folks, is our review. And it's about an hour and 10 minutes long. That is our review of Black Panther. If you don't like it, say something in the comments. But whatever you do, just say something in the comments. Like it, unlike it, I don't care. But subscribe, hit the bell. Thank you to my esteemed panel for taking the time out relatively last second to have this absurd conversation with me and entertain the people. And like I said, folks, subscribe. Check us out on social media. All of our information is downstairs in the description. You can see it down there. And this episode, if you didn't catch it live, will be out on one of these Wednesdays coming up. And then also we have a couple more episodes left in the season as we're closing out March. So love you guys. Thank you so much. God bless. Panel, thank you so much.